What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm Ant.
How are you doing this weekend?
All good, mate. You?
Yeah, not too bad at all, mate. Not too bad at all. I'm back at work after my little stint off last week.
Yeah.
That's not good, obviously, being back at work.
No,
but
never is, but hey.
I'm not in unrivaled agony. I'm not dosed up on pain medication
and stuff.
Which I think I managed to get through last week's episode without mentioning that fact, and I don't think it showed too much.
No.
So,
but if it did, comment below.
Yeah, exactly. We're recording this before that episode comes out, so
Yeah, exactly.
we might actually have loads of comments on that episode going, "What the hell was wrong with Jason on this?"
Go back and do it now.
I'll probably do it myself. Why not? But yeah, how have you been this week? It has literally been a week
Has been a week, yeah.
since I last saw you. Been up to much?
No, unfortunately, no gaming this week for me. I had to work both my jobs this week, and it was my daughter's birthday at the weekend. So, yeah, no time for gaming this week.
I mean,
Great to say.
daughter's birthday, that's understandable though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids getting older.
Well, so back in the day, we had a birthday. Kids these days need 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
I mean, my son doesn't get that, so now I feel like a neglectful parent.
So it's kind of like, so her birthday was the Saturday. Friday night, she had friends over.
Yeah,
It was a sleepover.
yeah.
That was a gift window. Then Saturday, took it to my parents, but then the Sunday was the in-laws' parents.
Of course, yeah. The family birthdays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember just everyone gathered in one day for me back in the day.
Yeah.
Gave me a request for my birthday, whatnot.
Yeah.
And then
Here's
that
your
was it
present.
done. It was
Grow
over
up.
with. Not a whole weekend thing. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I tried to get some games out to play, but no, nothing this week. So a bit of a
bad
downer this
times.
one.
Oh well, there's plenty of time to game.
We'll make up for it.
Well, we're going to play a game right after this, as it happens. So yeah, I mean, I have managed to get 1 or 2 games in.
Nice.
Not too much though. Again, been very busy. I was off work, as I said, so had to, doctor's orders, had to rest.
Yeah.
The back because I got. It basically looks like it was a trapped nerve right between my shoulder blades.
Yeah.
So basically every movement was, agony.
Yeah.
Agony. But I'm much better now. Which,
Good.
yeah, as doing a heavy lifting job for a living.
Yeah. Not good. So
Not being able to move, not good, and driving for a living as well. So
this is true.
yeah, all the things went against me on that one. But yeah, I did manage to get in some gaming. So I've been playing as all dual.
Yep.
We've talked about it already.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any more about it. I've played as all dual. I've also played Inish. I haven't
back to
played
Inish.
Inish for a long
Yeah,
time. I
I
don't
haven't
own it
either.
anymore, which is a shame. But someone brought it out at a game day that I was at the other day. It was fantastic
And
to
how
play.
good is that they just announced the Legendary Edition for that as well? Have you seen that?
Yeah, yes. Like I said, I don't own it anymore, and now I'm like, oh, I feel like I should now. But have they changed anything? No, not
No,
really.
probably not.
But I feel like I should buy it anyway.
This is it.
Because I do miss it. I miss that game. It's a really, really good game. The dudes on a map thing, but the expanded map.
It's the moment you got to get 6 of something to win.
Yeah, the rule of 6.
Rule
It's
of
like
6.
you've got to be in control of 6 areas. You could be in 6 areas with the sanctuaries.
That's right, yeah.
You could be lording, if you like, over 6 other players, infantry and that kind of stuff. Basically, if you can have 6 of it, it's probably a winning victory condition. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful game,
Oh, absolutely.
man. The artwork
for
on
the
it.
cards is unreal.
Yeah. Of course, yeah, you've like the tiles as well. It's like that watercolor painting style
right, yeah,
to it as
that's
well.
right.
It's just such a beautiful game. I've missed it, I really have, and it's probably one of the games that I regret somewhat selling.
Okay.
But at the same time, I don't regret it because it wasn't seeing the table.
That was the issue.
It kind of had to go because, unfortunately, with what we do, the cult of the new is the big thing here.
This is it, yeah.
And we very rarely find time to go back to those older games that we know and love. Which I think is probably another
But I would like
top
to-
5 that we
play
could do.
again. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
5 games we know and love but don't get to play anymore. So I might add that to the list. Just thinking spur of the moment there.
Write it down now,
Write it
otherwise you'll
down.
forget.
I'll forget by the time we finish
That's
doing
it.
this, won't I? But so yeah, I've been playing Inish. Fantastic game. Really look forward to playing it again at some point very, very soon. I may well have to try and pick me up another copy of it. Maybe not the Legendary Edition, but we'll see. We'll see. And one other one I actually want to talk about is Waterfall Park. Now, this is another theme park themed game.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm just going to say to you, imagine Chinatown with a theme park theme.
No way, really?
It's almost identical.
Wow, okay.
You've got the blind drawing of cards and picking areas that you're going to, and then you've got the bargaining phase to try and swap, the trade phase, and then you've got the grouping of things to gain points.
Oh, how have I not heard of this?
It's almost this is only about a year old.
Okay,
but I did not know about it until recently, and Paul, formerly of our podcast.
Oh, okay.
He picked up a copy, and I managed to get a game of it in, and I absolutely loved it. And as I said, it is basically carbon copy of Chinatown, but with a really nice modern light theme park theme. So, how do you feel about playing that at some point?
Sign me up. I love Chinatown and theme park games, so
yeah, exactly.
I'm just surprised I've not heard of this before.
Yeah. Like I said, I hadn't heard of it. It's probably, I mean, I'll be honest, the theme is a bit flimsy. Like, you don't really feel like you're building a theme park.
Oh, really?
But it's there in its.
I suppose it's pictures, a good substitute for Chinatown because you can't really get hold of that game now.
Yes.
It's very, very hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sign me up. I want to play now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably maybe the reason that this has come to be, because Chinatown is incredibly hard to come by now. And obviously, if you can come by it, it usually costs you a pretty penny.
Yes, most definitely.
Whereas Waterfall Park is actually quite a reasonably priced game. I believe you can pick it up for about £23.
Ooh, okay.
So if you haven't got Chinatown and you're into the whole what is this, negotiation and that kind of stuff, then this is a really, really good game to pick up, because it is Chinatown, basically carbon copy. If you've got Chinatown, do not bother with Waterfall Park. But if you haven't got Chinatown and you like the idea of Chinatown, it's a great game to pick up. I am probably going to be picking it up myself.
I'm glad you keep telling me about these games. Last time it was Popcorn, and now it's Waterfall. I mean, obviously I've got Chinatown, so I won't buy Waterfall Park, but I will have to give it a try though.
Yes, yeah. And I'll be interested to see what you think of the difference between the two.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll either borrow that from Paul very soon,
please,
or I'm going to be picking it up myself. So that's what, two, 3 games that I've played recently. I've managed to hit through them in quick succession. Don't like to hang around
more than me, mate.
too much. There have been other games that I've played, but I've mentioned them in the past, so I won't talk about them this time. So I guess let's shift straight on into the topical. This isn't going to be a particularly long episode, I wouldn't have thought, but I guess it depends on just how much we want to talk about dual games, because dual games have been on something of a boom in the past few years, right?
Because we went back to last week's episode looking for games to be highly anticipated for, and I was just going for this. There's a dual version of this. There's a dual version of that.
Yeah.
So let's do an episode on it.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just so many coming out, as well as some available now.
And this is another one that you've come up with yourself. So thank you very much for the idea. Fantastic idea. But yeah, we had a little bit of a discussion about this previously, and I said that I attributed a lot of the releases of all these dual games as a result of the pandemic and the effect it had on the business, because obviously game designers, game publishers, they were all stuck at home, isolating in their homes. Playtesting bigger games was a problem. You know, if they didn't have them available to playtest online, it made it very, very difficult. Whereas arguably it would have been far easier to playtest two-player games, because most people have got a partner that will at least help with that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm imagining that a lot of this boom has come because of the design process that happened during the lockdown periods, and are only now starting to filter through into the production phase and actually hitting the market.
And not so much dual games, just two-player games in general.
Yeah, two-player dedicated games, yeah.
Sky Teams, you've got to say, was something they thought of whilst during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was out a couple of years after that, really, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah, I forget when that came out exactly, but yeah, it was definitely of that time, and I think it was the start of the latest boom.
Yeah.
Now, I had a little look at a list dedicated to two-player only games on BGG earlier today, and I've got some stats and stuff from that, which I will talk about in a minute. But you know, we talk about dual games because most of them now are something dual.
Yeah.
And they're usually a re-implementation or variation of an already existing higher player count game.
Yeah.
So when we say dual games, what we actually mean is two-player dedicated games,
Strictly,
right? Because that's generally what they have. You know, you've got the Lord of the Rings dual. We've got Living Forest dual. We've got
Seven Wonders
dual, so on and so forth. So
which I believe that was literally the only one that was around at COVID. So a lot of people were playing that, and so I think again this is where it's boomed up because another one, literally a year later after that, which I believe was Splendor, dual was straight out after because people knew that was like the next one to go for. In the market wise.
So yeah, let's talk about some stats very, very quickly here because on the little list that I went onto now, I don't know how up to date this is. There are some very brand new games that have only just been announced that are part of that list, so I imagine it's quite up to date. But at the time of recording, when I had a look, there was 83 titles that were mentioned on that list,
wow,
and 13 of which were released since the end of 2020. Now, that's 15% of the list has come since COVID was a thing. So how do you feel about those stats?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be ever increasing now, isn't it, really? I mean, like you said, we've been seeing such a boom in two-player games on their own, but now dual games specifically. And the fact is that people are queuing up for these games. Like Duel for Middle of last year was
huge,
such a massive hit. And I for me personally, I mean, because I'm not much of a two-player person, because we don't get to do much two-player stuff, but the fact that there is a market for it, people are queuing up around the block to get these sort of games.
People are loving it.
Crazy. It's not real, but
now obviously taking off 13 off of the 83, we're left with 70 titles, and they were
still to come.
They were pre.
Oh right, okay.
2020. So dual games have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I wrote some of them down. Some of the older ones to think of, notable ones, will be Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. That was 2012.
Okay.
You had, as you said, Seven Wonders Duel, which was 2015. You had the Catan two-player card game, which was 1996.
I'm not familiar with Catan, so.
Duelosaur Island, 2018, where they did a two-player version of Dinosaur Island.
Of course it is, yes.
Also in 2018, you had Kodama Duo as well.
No, not that one.
So there's been quite a few in the past.
Okay.
But arguably, I'd say in such a short space of time, you've got a lot being released since COVID.
Right.
So the evidence is there that since COVID, they've realised that there is a need for two-player only games on the market. Now, how do you feel personally about dual games? I know that we're kind of similar in the sense of we say we don't really play two-player games all that much, but really, when we reflect on it recently, we've been playing two-player games more than we have normal.
We have normal, yeah, but only up until recently, though, isn't it? But I think this goes back to something that James said when Living Forest Duel was announced.
Yes.
And his attitude was, well, why do I need to play Duel if we can just play two-player?
Yes, yeah.
So for me to really spark up and get a dual game, it needs to be completely different to the first.
Yeah.
But obviously with the same IP or whatever it is, whatnot. Yeah. For me to want to play it, it has to have a different set. It needs to be a completely different game.
Yeah.
Or not completely different, but you see what I'm saying. It needs to be
has to have the original. Have to be a reason for it to exist.
Why am I throwing my money to exist?
Yeah, I mean, I've the timing of us recording this, I've actually got Living Forest Duel arriving tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I'm very much looking forward to that because again, I still have Living Forest. I bought a lovely UV insert for it in it, a neoprene mat. I went the whole hog with Living Forest. I really enjoy that game, and I love playing that game at 2.
Right.
Now, there's quite a bit of setup to it at 2. Okay. So I'm not really sure what Living Forest Duel is going to bring to the table, because, like I said, it's got to be good, because Living Forest at 2 is very good.
Still good enough, yeah.
And if Duel isn't better at 2, it will be sold. You know, but I'm very interested to see just how it is once it arrives. Azul was another one that when we first heard about Duel back in October, I know we were excited once we got to see it, but then when we come out, it was like, what does Azul really need? And I think because Azul works fantastic at 2, and now we've played it.
Yeah.
So I would actually say that I don't think I could play normal Azul again at 2, because Duel is that good.
It's good enough to replace it, yeah.
That it is good enough to replace it, and it's a bit more up my street because there's a bit more to it.
Yeah.
Do you find that any dedicated 2-player games you've had tend to go that way, where they've got a bit more meat to them, or is it that you find that they're a bit more harsh on the strategic element and the screwing over of your opponent? Because obviously a lot of them you can see exactly what your opponent is doing.
Yeah, and that was the issue with Azul, really, wasn't it? Well, one of them. But then that's what happens when you have only 2 people to concentrate on.
Yeah.
You haven't got a table of people to go, well, he's
what's
doing
this
that.
person doing? What's that person doing?
It's like, well, he's clearly going to go for the reds on this turn, so maybe I should do this. So it's probably not as strategic because there's only the 2 of you. Yeah, so it's more of a case of I'm going to focus on what I'm doing, but am I doing this to screw over yourself or keep it going for me, for my benefit? Or do I just do it there to later because I want him to do that and then he's going to go do this?
Yeah.
And it all depends on the game because, again, Lord of the Rings Duel is a totally different thing because it's like, I want that card, but shall I make him out? I want this card instead.
Yeah.
But then you have a different rule for the 2-player version where I can pay a coin to negate that card or whatever. So it depends on how you're going to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I find personally from the ones I've played, I do find that they tend to point you in the direction of take that.
Yes.
A bit more with Duel, like, you know, a bit more towards the hate drafting side of things. I mean, that sounds very, very brutal and violent way of saying it, but, you know, like you said, when we're talking about Azul Duel, I am sitting there thinking, well, what's best for me? And, okay, I can clearly see he's going to do this. So if at any point I need that, I'm going to have to take it now, because if I don't, it won't come. Yeah. It won't come back to me. So, you know, you're sort of planning 2 steps ahead while also living in the moment. When you're playing in the 2-player game, I find they are definitely more. They feel more strategic, but also I do feel like I'm pushed a little bit more towards that hate drafting mechanic, which I don't inherently have a problem with, but I guess that a lot of people do not like being in that situation. So maybe they wouldn't enjoy it as much. And I think one of the reasons that I find that that's a very risky strategy for the publishers to go down that route is 2-player games arguably are going to be primarily played by couples.
Yes, of course.
So do you really want to be incorporating some kind of, you know, constant hate drafting with people that are going to be living together and potentially causing arguments? You know, because I've not yet heard of it where you've gone to, you know, divorce proceedings and they've cited, you know, board game hatred as a reason.
Because no matter how, you know, dual player the game is, if it's a cozy game, a cuddly game, whatever, it's still a game, and in the day someone's going to lose, someone's going to win.
Yeah.
So again, if you do it with your partner, it's like, oh, do I?
Yeah, exactly. What I would do? I would do this normally to screw everyone over, but if I do that, you know, I might not get dinner tonight, or I'm sleeping on the sofa.
Yeah, you make me lose. Let's say you didn't want it. But let me ask. Can I ask you something, Jason?
Yeah, go for it.
What is your initial reaction to dual games? Because I remember when they showed us Azul Duel, and I remember your first instinct was,
doesn't really need it.
Doesn't really need it. But let's say, for example, they dish out Dynagenics Duel or smartphone Duel.
Yeah.
will you still have?
They actually did do that. To be fair,
or did that? Well,
Yeah.
would you still have the same reaction, or would you be because it's an IP you're more fond with, or would you still have to go? Doesn't really need it though, does it?
Yeah, do you know what? It's really tough because there was definitely a time, and it's a time not that long ago that I would have instantly said, "Nah, 2-player game, not interested."
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not interested in it. I don't think it needs it. Blah 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 blah. I will admit, recently I'm looking more and more at the dual games because I'm getting 2-player games to the table, which is something I never had before. And I'm finding that they are giving me a nice variation of games that I'm playing. There's I nearly always take a 2-player game with me to my game club on a Monday night now because it's more and more often as we get lots more board gamers, they're sort of joining in the bigger games. And then I'm either standing there,
if you've got a spare 2-player,
either not playing a game or someone will turn up late.
Yeah.
I'll be like, right, boom, I've got a game we can play, and it's perfect because it's designed for just 2 people.
I suppose in a way, if someone's new to your club and they want to invite someone in for a quick game, that might be something they can use, isn't it? As a quick dual game or something
exactly.
Like
that. But yeah, I think, skirting around your actual question, I have 2 halves of my brain arguing over it, right? They've got the right side of the brain going, dual games are great. You should be playing more of these. And the left side of my brain going, this is a social hobby. The more, the merrier.
Yeah.
And I think I still favour the other side, the more, the merrier, because the more, the merrier. But if it means getting a game versus not getting a game, count me in for some dual.
Yeah.
Some 2-player only action. As long as it's good, I will play it.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm all for dual games with the caveat that I do think that they need them because I'm not going to lie, there's been some that have been announced that I look at and go, really?
I've had the same one, yeah. Like I had some total shockers when I saw like Furnace Duel.
That's one of mine. Yeah,
I love Furnace. It being a bidding game and all, I think it's one that needs more players for a bidding game. But for 2, I'm intrigued to see what the dual version is going to come out as. But another question, if you don't mind me asking.
Go.
Got 2 players.
Yep.
Now I know there's certain games on your collection that you don't want to play 2-player.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Or you don't find are as good as 2-player. But you've got both versions.
Yep.
Do you rock out the original or do you bring out the dual version?
Again, I think it would depend on the dual game.
Okay.
Obviously, if the dual game is designed for 2 players, I would hope that it was far better than the original at 2-player. If I've not played that game at 2-player because I don't think it's very good at 2-player, then that dual version needs to be good at 2-player because otherwise, what's the point? So in that instance, I'm guessing I will have already played the dual version. I would probably take the dual version because if it's still in my collection, it means it's good enough to keep it 2 players.
Keep going, yeah.
And you are right. There are definitely games I've got that I wouldn't play at 2 players, whether it be because they're not very good at 2 players or maybe the setup is hassle.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, another thing. Like I've noticed with dual games, the setup tends to be a little bit better than their bigger brother.
Yeah, because it's designed for that, isn't it? It's meant to be quick setup, quick pack down, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't say all of them are that way, but
no, of course
the ones I've experienced, I would say that they are like that. And looking at the components of Living Forest Duel when that turns up, it looks like it's primarily card based.
Okay.
So you won't have to set up the forest tiles. You won't have to set up the flame pieces and all of that jazz. Because again, love Living Forest, love playing it at 2-player. Bit of a ball ache to set up.
So the setup concept is another way to bring the dual version out.
I would say, yeah.
Would you say something that doesn't come to the table enough? So I'm going to put out the example like what White Castle Duel's coming.
Yes.
So we haven't played it for probably every year now. It doesn't come to the table an awful lot, but if I've got the opportunity to get White Castle Duel out because there's 2 people here that because again White Castle is all right at 2.
Yeah.
3 better, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued to what the dual version is going to be like. But if I have an opportunity to get White Castle Dual out because I love White Castle, I will probably do that. So I get what you're saying with the whole Living Forest scenario.
Yeah, I mean, White Castle was one of the ones that I've seen and sort of thought to myself, is that really needed? The setup's not that bad for White Castle, really. And it plays all right at 2. But that being said, is all right enough?
Yeah.
Because the evidence says that it's not, because we haven't played it.
Yeah.
You know, there's been plenty of times that you and me are going to play a game today. Did you bring White Castle with you? No. Why didn't you bring White Castle with you? Because there's other things that are better at 2.
Yeah.
That we want to play.
Exactly.
So that's the point, isn't it? Is the dual version needs to be better than the original, so that we sit here going, we're going to play a game after we record tonight. What should we play? White Castle Dual.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be coming in my head, and that's what I think dual games need to be. They need to be that game that comes into your head when you think, I'd love to play Living Forest, but dual, sorted.
Quicker and easier to set up.
Quicker and easier to set up. Boom, we're off. And it's fun to play. So, that's where I stand on it with dual games. I think that's what they need to achieve. But yeah, there are definitely some out there. And you mentioned Furnace Duel. And I cannot fathom.
No.
Why? Why?
Yeah.
That game was... I mean, Furnace is an amazing game.
Yeah.
It is a really good game.
Really good game.
And I think it's perfectly good at 2. I don't see anything in Duel
that can
that's
negate the first one.
Yeah, what's improved here? You've not told me what's better about the Duel version than the other one. You know, Flamecraft Duel. This is another one. I'm like, I keep looking at it and going, I kind of want this because I love Flamecraft.
Yeah.
And I play it more often than not at 2. But that's the point, is I'm playing it at 2. So what is Duel going to give me?
Yeah.
And, you know, because
it can't be as grander as Flamecraft either, can it? Because obviously they're always cheaper, aren't they? Duel games.
Of course,
well, so.
Well, more off, I mean, we say that. Like, I think about, like, the Lord of the Rings Duel. Like, I think at full price, that's, like, £29. And I'm like, well, that's not that much less than the full Seven Wonders experience.
That's technically true, yeah.
But then again, I got Living Forest Duel for like 14 quid.
Right.
Whereas the normal Living Forest is, 25 plus. So yes, that is substantially cheaper. I don't know how much White Castle Duel is going to be.
No, I don't. It's been announced, but I don't know how much. I don't know what it's going to be like. I just know it's announced. No. So.
And what's the cost going to be? Because the standard game isn't expensive.
No, absolutely.
And there's a lot packed into it. So
absolutely.
If you're going on Devier Games' normal MO with regards to games, it's a small box and they cram it full.
Yeah. You
would think that the dual version needs to be smaller still, and are they going to cram as much into a smaller still box? I don't know. Are you going to get as good a value for money with the dual game? Who knows? We don't know these things yet.
But call us intrigued, folks.
Indeed. It's a game that's on my watch list, and I'd like to try it. I'm just unsure.
So another one for you. Do you reckon a dual game can introduce a player to the actual game? For example, you introduce someone to Flamecraft Duel.
Yep.
They've never played Flamecraft before. Oh, I really enjoyed the Duel, this version of it. It was like, well, if you like that, here's the Big Daddy. Here's the original. You reckon you can do that with dual games? Again,
I would say that dual games need to be doing that. That's what they should be, the stepping stone to the bigger brother. Again, picking up on Lord of the Rings Duel, that got so many people into a two-player genre, but more so over, it got people into Seven Wonders.
Yes,
because there's a lot of people like me that until I played that, I hadn't touched Seven Wonders because I looked at it and went, "Yeah, this is a gateway game. Not interested. I've already bypassed that. Don't need to play it." And I went back and played them, and I loved them. They're very, very good games. So yes, it was a stepping stone to getting me into that
So there you go, prime example.
That thing. So yeah, very good example with that one. I think Living Forest might well be the same. Flamecraft Duel, I'm interested in. I'd love to see a slimmed down version of Arc Nova. Now, Arc Nova Duel, that's something I could get behind.
Okay.
But not if it's the behemoth that is normal.
No, it'd have to be half the size of that. It'd have
to be half the size, half the length.
Price and whatnot.
You know, you don't need as much stuff. Maybe have it card based. I don't know whether they could do something like that. But, you know, I think the theme and the popularity of Arc Nova, it kind of screams, we need a 2-player dedicated version of this.
Yeah.
And that's me sitting here now saying, we need a 2-player version of this. We need a 2-player version of this. We need a 2-player version of this. Am I answering my own question of whether we need dual games, whether there is a market for them? Because I'm sitting here saying yes.
And this is going back to the question to what your initial reaction was, how you've gone from not another 2-player game to like go, actually, this needs this now.
Yep. Yeah. And I think we have seen that shift following, you know, coming out of the lockdowns. We've seen the shift of people that have got into board games during that time. They've then expanded their horizons by going to conventions. They've been going to game days. They've been meeting new people, playing these big games. Yeah. And now we're starting to devolve back into the norm of, rather than playing games of 6+, 5+, because we went through a phase before this where everything had to have 5 players in it. You know, that's kind of carried on, but to a lesser extent now. We're not getting 5-player expansions every day. We're now getting 2 players. So I'm starting to see that shift of dialing back to smaller player numbers. We've always said it, a lot of games we play are best at 3 and 4 as opposed to 5 and 6 or 2, 5 and 6. You know, maybe now we're seeing it go back even further, where games are going to start being better at 2 and 3. You know, the player numbers that publishers put on the box is to sell copies, right? If you have a group of players that only ever have 3 or 4 players, they're open to every game on the market pretty much, because most games are 2 to 4. If you get a group of 5 that they see a game and go, oh, I really like the look of that, maximum player count of 4, even if without them thinking, they're subconsciously thinking, most of the time there's 4 of us, but occasionally there's 5. Even with that, they'll still overlook it because it doesn't say 5, which is why we saw that increase in 5th player games. With a 2-player only game, you are again
restriction.
You are limiting. You're limiting your potential market. If companies start making that 2-player level as part of the multi, so 2 to 5 players, if they start making that 2-player level as good as a dual game, then maybe we will see the death of dedicated dual games because they can just do it in a normal box. And arguably, maybe they should. You know, should I be buying 2 different games that's set in the same universe that is ultimately the same game with the same goals, but this one's more optimized for 2 players? It's like, we'll just put those rules in the rule book in the 2-player section. You know, give me some extra components, maybe make the game slightly more expensive because you're sharing components as opposed to having 2 separate ones. You know, that's where I would like to see dual games go. You know, maybe on your front box cover, you've got your main box cover, but then a tiny little bit in the corner, including dual version, dedicated 2-player. You know, that'd be cool. I'm all up for that, right?
Yeah, totally.
More for your money.
But you're quite right on that aspect of the number of players, where it's gone from 4 to 5 down to straight to 2. Look at Unmatched, for example. Unmatched started with 4-player boxes. And now a majority of them now
they
are
went
just
down to 3
now they're 2-player now.
Yep.
So, but no, you're quite right. It's literally, if any bigger board game franchise, I can just see now getting 2-player versions. Could you imagine if a 2-player version can get added to the original? It can be done, mate.
Again, I mean, I'm talking about games that could come with each other. It's like,
Yeah.
what's to say they don't just do an upgrade pack?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't need to come in a box. It comes in a, you know, a glorified baggie that hangs on a shelf. You know, buy this to upgrade your game to having these special rules.
Yeah.
You know, retrofitting your older games.
Dune Imperium's a prime example. It has like a tiny extra little board you add to that, and it can, you know, add extra rules to it.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why they can't do it.
Yeah,
it's an idea for board games. Okay.
Yeah,
you can have that.
Yeah. Do you remember when I said I showed you just before this little, you know, fourth wall break thing? You know, I showed you some lists of ideas that I've come up with, and I said about there's one on there about building a game from scratch on air.
There you go.
With no planning. Boom.
Make a
We've
note
started it. We've started it already.
Because we're going to forget by that time that episode's out.
Well, like, you know, let's think about some games now and maybe theorize what ones we would like to see some 2-player versions of. You know, I've already mentioned one being Ark Nova. I'd love to see a dedicated, streamlined 2-player version of Ark Nova. Are there any games that spring to mind from your collection or from your past that you've played and think, I'd love this game, but the only person that would play it with me is this person, and it doesn't work very well at that level?
I'd like to see Lost Ruins of Arnak as a 2-player.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think that's a game that's good at 3 and 4. I find it a struggle to play it with 2 because it's such a big and broad and open board, isn't it? And you've got not only the forest itself that you can explore, you've got the temple side to it as well.
Yeah.
So maybe something a little bit more compact. I know they've done like a little campaign add-on they've done for 2 players, which I've not played, so I can't judge on that aspect of it. But I think that'd be something I'd like to see or give a try, maybe.
Yeah. You know, I sort of was just looking at perusing the shelf a little bit as I'm seeing Scythe there, and I'm like, that game doesn't see the table very often. But I know plenty of people that I could play that with at 2-player. But again, the setup is a bit of a bear for just 2 people, and I'm like, I wonder if there's a way of making that a 2-player game.
Yeah.
You know, giving Scythe a new lease of life. You know, that has the potential. You talked about Dynagenics. I wouldn't be too bothered about having a 2-player version of that, but I wouldn't mind giving the Dinosaur Island 2-player version a go. The Jewelasaur Island, that could be interesting.
I never got to get that game.
Just looking now. Again, you said smartphone. I haven't played the.
I didn't know there was a 2-player version.
Yeah, I think it's called Mobile Markets or something like that.
Okay. I didn't realise that was.
But
I just thought it was an add-on.
I believe that's a 2-player. 2-player only thing. I could be wrong. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. But other than that, I can't think of any that scream to me that they need 2 players.
Yeah.
Or that I would want to be 2 players. You know,
I just the sheer shock of what was been announced when we mentioned earlier on, I just wouldn't have pictured it as a dual version.
No.
So I am very surprised that these are coming out and intrigued to them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
Is what it is.
Let's get up the BGG list, shall we? With it on, and see if we could pick out some that sound pretty good.
I mean, I believe there's an Everdell.
There is, yeah.
I've never played Everdell, so sorry, folks.
Yeah, Everdell Duo, I believe it's.
So that might be something interesting for me to try, because again, if I like the Duo version, maybe I'll actually try the original for once.
All right. See all 83. Right, okay, so obviously Seven Wonders Duel is the first one on there. It's in alphabetical order, so I'm just going through a few. There's Aquatica Duelum that's coming out this year. I don't know what that is.
Nope.
Bananagrams Duel. Now, this one was one that stood out to me earlier. Bananagrams is, I guess, modern Scrabble.
Oh, okay.
Comes, when you see it in the shop, it comes in literally a banana.
Actually, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
And I'm just sort of like, why do you need a 2-player version of that? Like,
I didn't know it was a 2-player.
The full game
No.
plays at 2 players. Why do I need a dedicated dual player? I don't know. I've not played it, so I can't comment on that further. But like Carcassonne, two different 2-player only versions of Carcassonne. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 versions of Catan.
Isn't there a Quaxer Quedlinburg dual coming,
I
or it's already out or something? Or
I think there might be. I don't think.
I'd like to give that. I love that
Yeah.
game, so I'd be quite intrigued to see that.
Yeah, again, a couple of Cavernas.
I've never,
Codenames duet. Like Codenames works well at two anyway.
That's been out for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah. Cthulhu Wars duel.
No,
I mean, I'm surprised you haven't tried
Nope.
that one because you like your Cthulhu.
I do,
don't you?
but Cthulhu was a whole new ball game. That's like a proper deep one, apparently. Isn't it?
Yeah. Like Everdell Duo. There you go. That came out last year.
Oh, it's actually out.
It's out.
Oh, I didn't realize
that,
it was out.
That came out last year, or it's listed as 2024. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that means it's out. Yeah, Flamecraft Jewels, not Jewel. It's Jewels.
Jules.
Furnace Duel. The game face to face.
What, Triple H?
Well, yeah. Okay. The Imhotep, the Duel.
Yeah, more.
Imhotep. The Isle of Cats Duel. Again, Isle of Cats was a huge game.
I never played the original, so yeah.
Very, very interesting game. I enjoyed that one. Joyride Duel.
It's in the racing game.
As in the racing game.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's out this year. It might even already be out. King Domino Duel. King of Tokyo Duel.
Yes, yeah.
Labyrinth the Duel. That's an old one, 2009. Monopoly Rivals Edition. Well, I think we all need to get that, right?
Sign me up, mate. Pre-order that.
Oh, yeah, that's all up in there. That one, we want that one. Yeah, there you go. Quacks of Quedlinburg, the Duel came out last year apparently.
All right, I need to grab that then.
More Catan. Yeah, this list this just goes on and on and on. Oh, Splendor Duel 2022. Yeah, there's lots. That's only 50. So I'm not going to keep going through this now because it's
no. We'll be here for a while.
We'll be here for a while. So there's a lot of games.
Yeah.
And I guess one of my final questions to you is, where do you think it goes from here? Do you think that this will fizzle out, i.e., we are just seeing the last bits of the COVID era design, or do you think that dual games are here to stay in a big way?
Second option. I think they're here to stay. I think more and more will come out. Again, if they can make them different enough to the original, then why the hell not? Not only is it a great cash grab, but it's also for an IP that people really are willing to queue up for. And I'm saying it now, but there's a matter of time before there's a Wingspan duel, Finspan, Wormspan duel.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah,
I put my bottom dollar on there right now. But
yeah,
no, I think they're here to stay. There's a big market for them now. And I think I'm looking forward to them as more as I did as well. Because I'd be honest, I was that guy. I was like, really, Joel?
Yeah.
But like I said, we've been playing 2-player games more recently, so I'm looking forward to them as more now.
Yeah. So I as I said, for a long time, I said that this would fizzle out and that the fad would come to an end, and that we are just going through the last dribs and drabs of the COVID design era. However, I will admit that I now think I was wrong. I think dual games are definitely here to stay, and I do think they have a place. Do I think every game needs a dual version? No, I do not.
No, that's all.
I think providing they're worthy of a dual game, then by all means, let's go for it. Let's get it going. Yeah, I think dual games are gonna keep coming in a big way. I think we're gonna get 3 or 4 big dual games every year, if not more. This year is the perfect example. We've already had 4 or 5 huge ones announced. What I'm interested to see though, because obviously we know that the Flamecraft duel is going to be a crowdfunded game. Right. Whereas the likes of Living Forests and Azul Duel didn't go down the crowdfunding route. So I'd be interested to see that if they do it. Yeah, if they have a cheaper production, maybe they're going to be the type of one that we'll see go straight to market, and then your bigger games will transition back into being a crowdfunded project. So that could change the way that board games are released. You know, that could be the legacy of dual games.
That's it.
After all, it's a way of getting games to market, to figure out what people are interested in. Do they like the theme? Do they like the game mechanisms? Yes, they do. Fantastic. You want a bigger game? It's going to cost us more. Here's the crowdfund.
Yeah.
That, I think, would
like
be
the
a very
little
interesting
taster
way.
before the crowdfund,
Exactly.
would, yeah.
Exactly. A little slither of the platter
This is it.
to figure out whether you like it or not. And I'd be okay with that, providing big companies don't use that as an option.
As long as they all don't do it. But like you said, Flamecraft is a huge franchise for Cardboard Alchemy at the moment. So everyone and their mothers is going to be on that that Kickstarter when it comes. So
yeah, I agree on that one. So yeah, any more things you want to say about Jules?
No, just obviously, what are your reactions to dual games? Is there any you're looking forward to? Do you think they're still worth it, or is there any that did you have the same attitude as myself and Jason did when they first came into play? Obviously, comment below.
Let us know. It's your favourite line, isn't
I
it?
like it.
You love it. I love it. It's a great one. I still need to do a little graphic for it. Comment below and let us know. But yes, we're interested to hear your opinions on it. Maybe we'll read some out in the future if we get any responses. But yeah, I think we can call it there for another day, because we are going to play some 2-player games between us now. And yeah, till next time, I have been Jason.
I've been Ant.
You have been watching or listening to the Meeple Minded. Join us next time for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.